Meet Anthony Sapountzis, CTO of Technologies and co-host of the DevReady podcast. With 15 plus years in the game, Anthony has the knack for turning bold, messy, how will this even work ideas into sharp, scalable tech products. He's the go-to for founders who need more than just code. They need clarity, execution, and results. You mentioned something interesting about starting out, which is, you guys started as a bunch of people and then now only 2 remain.
Yep.
And that's a story we often see in a lot of startups. What do you think happens?
I think it's aligning everyone. So it's really an alignment of understanding where you want to go, how you're going to get there together, and how you make it work. So it started with, we would just quote people after meeting them for a couple hours, and then we'd get, the estimates would be wrong, we'd miss features, we'd underquote everything, and then we'd deliver a job, and then we'd start chasing on more work to make up for the money that we're losing on that job. Then we sat down and we said, all right, how do we turn this into a process where we ask the right questions and get the right people involved so we understand what we're building? And then we thought, all right, let's give it a name so we can talk to it and sell it. So we called it DevReady, because we help people get development ready. So we gave it a name just to be able to talk to it and be able to put a price against it. We're actually helping people because they don't know what's involved. So a lot of people don't know that you may need to get a lawyer in for terms and conditions and privacy policies, or how many things are involved in hosting and designing, or maybe consider a trademark. They haven't thought about any of those things. So those are moments when you're like, okay, we're actually helping this person, not just with development, but advising how they should get their business off the ground and potentially structure it in the right way. Or have you spoken to a lawyer about structures? If you want to sell it at some point in the future, don't have it in your name. Like, there's other things there to consider as well. There's a lot of what we call cowboy developers out there. There's a lot of people that just jump in too quickly, waste money, don't deliver something. We've had a client recently that had onboarded probably about a year ago. They had to spend $50,000 on top of their bill to release their source code. We consider ourselves too honest. So we work with people, we don't rip people off. We mentioned it's 17 years of referral work. We don't get that if we're ripping people off.
Welcome to Season 2 of Cask Convos and our new home, the Urban Alley Brewery, right at the heart of Melbourne, District Docklands. Born from a love of great beer and a mission to bring world-class brews to Melbourne's doorstep, Urban Alley has been crafting award-winning beers that bridge the gap between mainstream and craft, blending tradition with innovation. With a state-of-the-art 25-hectoliter brew house and a 690-person brew pub, this is where bold flavors and even bolder conversations come to life. But great ideas don't just happen over a pint. They need the right space to grow. That's why we are teaming up with Natural Velocity, a co-working hub built for innovators and game changers. Because whether it's in business or at the bar, the best ideas happen when the right people come together. So grab a drink, pull up a chair, and let's dive in. Welcome, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast today.
No, it's a pleasure, Shabani. Thank you for having me.
I know you are usually on the other side, and this time we are putting you as a person getting interviewed.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
A bit different. I'm not with my background in my home recording. I'm in front of my computer. It's a little bit different, but it won't be a problem.
Yeah, as long as we have some liquor to help us.
Yeah, of course.
So, Anthony, today we thought of having you because there is that need. A lot of times people have got great ideas, but not always the way to materialize that idea. And that's where custom development organizations come in, organization like yours as well.
Yep.
So we would love to know what's the process that you take and how do you help people, solidify those ideas. But first, how did all of this start?
Oh, it's interesting. So I started the business in my final year of uni. So I was 22.
Okay.
I was studying my honours. There was a group of 5 people that one person drove, said, maybe we should do a startup. He collected a few different people. There was 5 that started. 4 actually went into the business. 1 never did anything. The guy that actually put together left within 6 months.
Oh, wow.
It didn't work out. And then there was 3 of us left. 2 of us were running most of the business all the time, and we're just down to 2 now. So that's really how it started. So it was quite a busy year in that final year of uni, doing that part-time and trying to start a business. So that's really where it started. And then we started with doing some work with our university, building a website platform for one of the departments.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever got released, but it was a good learning experience.
Yeah.
Didn't know what we were doing, but I'd done enough at uni in classes to pretend like I knew. And then that's we really got off the ground and taught everyone.
Wow.
So I'll just teach them what I would know, and then we'd work off as I'm the more technical one out of the two between my partner and myself.
And how did you find your first client?
So the first one, in that final year of uni, before that I had done a summer internship with the Victorian Space Science Education Centre in Strathmore. So I was doing development over the summer, and they became our first client. When they needed to build something, we built something for them and remade software that they had made 5-6 years earlier that needed to get done. So that was that journey. But then it's always just been trying to get word of mouth, really. It's been that for 17 years.
Wow, 17 years.
Yeah, that's how long it's been now. So 2008 is when we started.
And you mentioned something interesting about starting out, which is, you guys started as a bunch of people and then now only 2 remain.
Yep.
And that's a story we often see in a lot of startups. What do you think happens, from conception to, putting things, or rather wheels on the road?
Yep.
Where does it go wrong?
I think it's aligning everyone. So the person that never joined liked the idea, said yes, but then probably didn't want to do it or didn't understand it. The one that was there early on and left, he wasn't aligned with how we were working or wanted to do things, so he ended up leaving. And then the third person that left was with us for 13 years, but it was just time for him to go. He wasn't aligned with us in the journey we want to take. So it's really an alignment of understanding where you want to go, how you're going to get there together, and how you make it work, I think.
And what kept you guys on?
We believe in what we're doing, and then we were aligned. So I always knew he had my back. He always knew I had his. So if we had to do something to work, we could issue it out and know it was going to get done. I think that's what it is. It's just an alignment, and then we're very different, so we complement each other. I'm very technical. He's more business oriented, so we don't clash in that way. I couldn't work with someone like myself. It wouldn't work.
Actually, even I wouldn't be able to work with myself, and I think my husband would be a testament to that.
Yeah.
Tell me about the process, because it's you have a very unique and very specific process.
Yep.
And I think that must have taken a bit of evolution.
Oh, definitely. So
tell us the story behind it.
So it started with, we would just quote people after meeting them for a couple hours, and then the estimates would be wrong, we'd miss features, we'd underquote everything, and then we'd deliver a job, and then we'd start chasing on more work to make up for the money that we're losing on that job. Eventually we got to the point where we started asking more questions and going through a process, but we didn't know how to charge for a quote effectively. So we went through a process where one client, it was in 2015, I think it was, or 2014. So about 6 years in. So quite a lot of learnings along the way and missteps. We built software. It was very technically delivered well. And then when they went to take it internally to like an internal trade show, that no one wanted the product. So he told us that he talked to stakeholders and this was something they wanted. So then that was a bit disheartening, because we don't like building things that people don't use. Then we sat down and we said, all right, how do we turn this into a process where we ask the right questions and get the right people involved so we understand what we're building? And then we thought, all right, let's give it a name so we can talk to it and sell it. So we called it DevReady, because we help people get development ready. So we gave it a name just to be able to talk to it and be able to put a price against it. Because you can't charge for a quote, but you need to spend enough time to make sure you understand the intricacies of what someone's asking for to be able to deliver the right product. And then that now is a consulting process where we advise and explain and experiment and research before any code gets written. So if something's not going to work, we'll tell you up front and we'll go ahead with it.
Okay. And what do you think works well, especially for somebody who's coming to you with a very fluffy idea? What do you think really works well? What's the ideal process?
Having just an idea is enough normally to start. What you really need to be is friendly and sort of work within the process. So if you don't want to sit through consulting sessions and workshops because you think I told you something, you should build it, that's the wrong way. So those clients sort of don't value your expertise. That's when it becomes challenging, and then they generally don't work out too well. But it's when you've got an idea and you're working with us like a partner rather than just a developer, that's when it works the best. Because then we can work with you, we can ideate, we can provide new ideas, provide our experience, challenge you if there's something that we think is wrong or right. And that's how we move together to help you move forward faster.
Okay. And tell us if you've ever encountered this aha moment along with your client, like where probably they started out with an idea and then through the process, probably you guys pivoted or, just came across some different realization. Has it ever happened?
Yeah, we've had one where we've advised the client not to go ahead.
Okay.
So that was a win for us because we went through the whole process. There was quite a lot of workshops and designing their HR platform. And then I think the development was going to end up being about $300,000
Oh, wow.
for something that they could have bought off the shelf. They had gone down a certain path and there was too much customization. There was going to be no ROI there. So we advised them not to go ahead with the build. And then they ended up winning an award for their rollout of the off-the-shelf software with the learnings they had from the process. So we asked the right questions and they understood what they actually needed. So I thought that's a big win.
Yes.
It's only happened once so far. We've told them not to go ahead because everything else seems to be, it can work out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, the other aha moments is we're actually helping people because they don't know what's involved. So a lot of people don't know that you may need to get a lawyer in for terms and conditions and privacy policies,
Yes.
or how many things are involved in hosting and designing, or maybe consider a trademark. They haven't thought about any of those things. So those are moments where you're like, okay, we're actually helping this person, not just with development, but advising how they should get their business off the ground, potentially structure it in the right way. Oh, have you spoken to a lawyer about structures?
Yes.
If you want to sell it at some point in the future, don't have it in your name. Like there's other things there to consider as well.
Absolutely. And this is something which we've observed as well. Whenever we are talking to our clients, a lot of time, and through no fault of theirs or anything like that, it's about people get so passionate about an idea that they are really not realizing that there can be pitfalls.
Yep.
Or there can be points in the journey where they really need to be considerate about the people who will be using or misusing the product as well in certain scenarios.
Yeah, you get the blinders on and they just
Yes.
go down one path, and sometimes you just need a little nudge to shift in the right direction.
Exactly.
But if they don't want to listen, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And then what happens? Like, once you start building, are there further considerations that need to happen at that stage?
So we work in what we call managed agile. So we're very agile and flexible up front. That DevReady process can go in any direction it needs to. So we plan the right product. What your MVP build would look like is fairly designed and defined from that first phase.
Yeah.
So not much changes there. Once you get that out and you start getting feedback, that's when we start pivoting based on feedback when users have it in their hands, because showing them a wireframe and someone using something are two very different things.
And you mentioned something very important over there, feedback.
Yeah.
How do you capture that?
In our mind, it's direct talking to people who are going to use the system. So if you're building a platform and you're talking with a manager of a business, go and talk to the people who are going to use the software. Whose process are you affecting? How's it going to affect their time? What's the change management? So we're going through a process at the moment for a water testing company. They've got 100 technicians on the field that are using a mobile app that was made 10 years ago.
Oh,
So our consideration in designing the mobile app is keep the UI similar, so then they have that familiarity. So there's not a huge impact to their day-to-day operations when there's 100 technicians using the app. It's the same but different. So then they're familiar with it and they know how to work with it.
have you ever encountered a fear of change any times? You mentioned mobile laptops, which are 10
happens a
years
lot.
old.
Yeah, people are reluctant to change process because they know what they know, or you get people that don't like change, so they don't want to try and improve processes. That happens a lot, but then you also get the other end where there's certain people in organizations who are trying to drive improvements. Those are the ones that can then try and champion that and try and convince the other people. But generally, if it's one person doesn't like change and it's something driven from the higher end of the organization, it's a little bit easier to get it through.
And tell us some things by which people can actually facilitate this better. What can be certain ways that change can be brought into an organization, especially when people are averse to it?
I think it's when software and the people are invested in the existing software, it's getting them involved in the process, hearing their concerns, what they think could be done better, what problems they're having. And then it's understanding like what workarounds are they doing. So if they've got software, are you using Excel to support anything, or do you have to double enter data into multiple systems, things like that. If they get involved and they start understanding the benefit as they go through the journey, it makes it a lot easier.
Now, while talking of change, a lot of change does not happen because people are obviously risk averse to it. And now with AI coming in, where people are vibe coding, often the quotient of risk increases.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that?
It definitely increases, especially if there's a lot of people who don't know how to code or now coding. So there's a lot of stories I've seen online, so from Twitter and Reddit, where people are vibe coding and they say, all right, I'm testing an app, I'm building in public, this is something new. And then you see a couple of weeks later, oh, I've spent too much money on all of my AI things because my keys got exposed.
Yeah.
So that's the risk is now greater because they don't understand the proper processes, how to manage risk, how to manage developer keys that will incur a cost, let alone just talking in general about everything.
So do you say that people should not be vibe coding?
I know, I do it every night.
Okay.
But there's a difference in, imagine you're learning to play the piano. If you just start playing the piano, or you had a Mozart playing the piano, when you know how to use the tools, you'll get a better result. You can get there over time, but you'll get a much better result when you know what you're doing. So I can do something, we're using vibe, I won't call vibe coding, using AI coding in a night, in a couple hours. It may take someone who doesn't know what they're doing a week or two. Just because I know how to do it, I've got the processes in place. But it's a great way for you to learn and prototype, but that's not going to be a production ready product, which is what people may think they'll get doing that.
Yeah. And do you think there are certain checklists that people need to keep in mind, especially going from a prototype to a production ready thing? And I've also seen that when people get a basic prototype or even a proof of concept ready, there are a lot of things which they have not thought about, which then adds to the work later on when they're trying to get it production ready.
Definitely.
So any thoughts on that?
So on proof of concept, you can get a proof of concept in ChatGPT just testing a prompt. Anyone can do that in half an hour.
Yeah.
Getting a clickable system built using like vibe coding and prototype is not a problem. What we're seeing is there's a lot of people that are getting it to like that 90%. That last 10% is everything they don't know about the development process. So how do I deploy it safely? How do I get into a staging environment to review everything, then push it to production? So I've tested it in the environment it's going to go live in. Maintenance, there's packages that you use that things are out of date. They don't know that things get out of date or they get security risks. There's problems with payment gateways and things like that, or setting up the right structures to support payments. And then there's the risks in jumping too fast and not having enough security in the code base as well, or having it reviewed or understanding exactly what it's trying to do. So a lot of things there that are considerations that, as a developer with the process, like we've got a team of 40, and we have to have a process in place to make things work, otherwise we'll be in trouble. So unless you've got that process in place, and if you've never been in development before, you won't know what that looks like. So a really basic checklist is you build it, you test it again, you make sure that you've gone through certain security checks. They may be doing another round of getting AI to review and say, are there security problems, then fix that. And it's not just human testing, it's writing code tests that can run automatically when things are happening. And then it's, have you got your key secured? Have you got the email set up properly in the services? Have you got payments set up if you need them? Have you got a rollback strategy if something goes wrong? How do you go back to the previous version? Because that's also a consideration that people don't normally cover.
Absolutely. And now looking at a more broader picture, there are a lot of people with great ideas now, and they are trying to test it out, using AI applications. And there is a certain point of time, as you said, when they need to go to probably the professionals and get it done. What are those points when they need to realize that, so that they don't go into this entire journey of building something, blowing a lot of money on it, burning a lot of money, burning a lot of time and effort into it, and being very passionate, and then having their passion drain out, things don't work.
I think it's changed from last year to this year with the AI coding.
Okay.
It's more people are not spending money, they're spending $30 a month on Lovable as a subscription, and that's their cost. The rest is time. So they're spending a lot of time to build things. So I had a call with a founder last week, and they spent 500 hours building a product.
Wow.
That's an actual proper development time frame for what we will do on a product.
Exactly.
We've had another one that spent 3 to 4 hours a night for 6 months. So they're building products, they're getting to a point, but they don't know how to either commercialize it or take it to the next level. So the first one I mentioned didn't know that we may need different environments. If he's got to roll out, he's targeting potential government departments in Australia. So now there's data sovereignty issues. Where do we host it? How do we make sure it's in Australia? What requirements do I have with overseas developers accessing data? He wasn't aware of any of that stuff. So I think the crossing point is when you think you've got your product doing the functionality that you need, then get someone who knows what they're doing in to come and finish it. It's almost like if you're doing a renovation in your house. Get it finished and then come in and get the inspector to make sure it's all okay, or do as much as you can and get someone to finish it who knows what they're doing.
And what about regulations or regulatory environments and things like that? Have that impacted
Not at the moment. There's not much regulation happening on the AI space. I
Oh,
think
okay.
it's so early that they don't know how to do it. I think that's coming longer term with either protecting AI, say from like China with DeepSeek. People are worried about, all right, if we use a Chinese LLM, then what does that mean for our security in Australia? But different countries are moving at different paces. So we haven't not doing much in Australia at the moment that I've seen. So you have to use these models from overseas. But then depending on what industry you're in, the regulatory requirements are different. So in medical, they're going to be a lot slower. In the legal industry, I think they are getting tools in the legal industry to read casework. So there's a couple different platforms out there that do that for you. So they're moving faster, but it's a lot more around like the PII, so the personal identifiable information that has to be protected. But each industry sort is a bit different with what they need to do.
Okay. Um, I'm going to challenge you a bit on this one.
Yeah.
My next question. Uh, Given a lot is happening right now in the industry, and as a developer, or even as somebody who advises people on what's the right way to go about the development process,
Yep.
what are certain safeguards you feel that are needed in the current policy making or regulations? What do you feel would help us not just build better products, but
Yep.
safer products?
Safer, there's probably two ways. What I'd say, they're safer for the end user to use, or they're sort of protecting the owner of the business who's trying to build something. So there's a lot of what we call cowboy developers out there. There's a lot of people that just jump in too quickly, waste money, don't deliver something. We've had a client recently that had onboarded probably about a year ago. And they had to spend $50,000 on top of their bill to release their source code.
Oh,
Yeah,
that hurts.
yeah, it does, because you've got access to. So once you pay your bill in our model, the IP rights are assigned to you, so you get access to everything. No, a lot of people don't take the source code until they move away. Once you move, no issue. We don't have a problem with people moving away. They have to, because either we've transitioned them to an internal team if we're working with them. So there's different models there. But there's no regulation on anyone who can be a developer or how these models work. Whether it's overseas or onshore. If you're overseas, you've got a lot less chance of any recourse. Like, you're not going to sue a developer in another country or a group. There's a lot of paperwork. It's going to cost you more probably than rebuilding. So I think there probably needs some sort of regulation somewhere on whether, I don't know how, if it's an accreditation or how it works. It's more of like an ethical thing where people are taking clients on board, taking their money, but not delivering. They don't care.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it is. We consider ourselves too honest. So we work with people. We don't rip people off. We mentioned it's 17 years of referral work. We don't get that if we're ripping people off.
True.
Those businesses burn through a lot of people, so I don't know how long they stick around. But I'm not sure what you can do on that side, because then that's just going to be a lot of red tape or regulation to try and keep everyone up to date or at scratch. It's a bit different to sort of like the finance industry where you're regulating on transactions or know your customer type thing. On the end user side, then it's regulation around data and security. So maybe that might mean a mandatory penetration test has to happen every year to ensure people's data is protected across all businesses. Like, that could be that, but that's the extra burden and cost. We've had quotes of up to $20,000 for relatively small systems to do one of those. So I'm not sure on the direction, but something there needs to be thought of. But more as a business owner, that's something you should be doing. Make sure you're trying to follow the best practice of what you think needs to be done.
Yes.
And don't just go for the cheapest quote generally. You do get what you pay for.
And that is one thing which I've seen a lot. And sometimes, because we are an advisory as Infinity, we do reach out to a lot of development partners who are looking to, code for a problem that we are trying to solve. And there are a couple of questions that we also have to ask. Are you certified? And what sort of certifications do you have? This might be a product that we are building for the European market. So do you have these kind of certifications in place or not? And a lot of that, at times, even though their code is quite competitive, they might not have the right certifications, which then becomes a challenge. I know they are very enthusiastic, they are very passionate, but then they are lacking the right kind of certifications or safeguards, which can enable us to give our clients the trust that, yes, these are the right kind of people to go for. And I think given that AI is coming into the picture so much, there definitely needs, and this is something which I would love your view on, do we need to start looking at how do we even certify developers, people who are building the solution? How do we make sure that these people are certified to safely work with AI applications? And even if they are vibe coding or anything like that, they're at least doing it in the right way. They're putting the right kind of safeguards in place.
I think it's probably vetting the models as well. So you're using OpenAI or Anthropic, you know they're going to be at a different quality than some open source one you've downloaded from like Hugging Face, which you don't know how it's built, what it's doing. So that level is just a bit of vetting that you need to do on your own. Working with developers, I don't know how you would certify the developers or who would certify what that body is, because as soon as you bring in the body like that, they're going to end up being behind. So in the last 6 months, AI has drastically changed how we're coding.
True.
How long would it take that body to catch up to what's happened? And it might be a couple of years. Like things work slow when you start bringing in regulation. So I'm not sure what that certification would look like.
So now, what does the future look like? What do you think? Let's throw our imaginations wild.
I wish I knew. I try and keep up with as much of this news as possible. So I've started a process internally where every bit of content I'm watching on YouTube and podcasts, I'm sharing with the team through like a weekly summary. I've got an AI process to help me automate that, just so I can try to keep on top.
I should sign up for that.
Yeah, there's a video released every Monday. It's an AI-generated script. I just read it, and this is what I learned, and I add my insights. But through that process over the past 8 weeks, I've seen a lot of people from, so the CEO of Anthropic, Sam Altman from OpenAI, and a few others in the industry talking about, all right, we may be in 5 years, coding is going to look completely different. It might not be coding, you're just reviewing code. And now you've taken away sort of like the fun part of the job.
Yeah.
So as a developer, the coding and creating something is the fun part. The reviewing is the boring part.
Yeah.
But now we're offloading like the part that the developers enjoy and forcing everyone to be reviewers. So there may not be developers, it may move to that space. And maybe you're more an engineer than a developer, where you're planning and coordinating agents and designing what needs to be built.
Yeah.
Just to me, the design is the fun part, not the coding.
Yes.
The coding is just where you actualize what you've envisioned. There may be, all of that may go away, and we may have agents that just do everything. So you're working with a team of 20 or 30 AI agents that are doing everything. If you asked me in December what I thought the future would look like, I wouldn't even be talking like this now, because the models weren't at a point where they could write very good code. I think in December it was Claude 3.7 was released.
Okay.
And that's when everything sort of changed. And now there's a new best coding model every week. So that is now, it's hard to predict I can't tell you what's going to happen next week in this space, let alone in the future, but there is going to be a change. I don't know what it's looking like, but we're trying to like ride that wave so our business can change with it. Otherwise we'll be left behind and our business will end up dying. It's something that's coming, and it's being forced upon everyone. And if you're not using it, you've got your head in the sand. Yeah. And I don't know why you've done that.
And you've mentioned about how businesses can die if they don't evolve. So should developers or development as a profession, should they be worried?
I think so. There's something coming, and I think there's a couple million developers worldwide. There's going to be a lot of them out of a job. If you look when you're looking at content online, if you see people referencing things about coding or vibe coding, have a look at the comments and see what comments people are leaving. Okay. I think you're looking at, there's people who don't know what they're doing saying that's amazing. A lot of developers saying it's never going to write production code, it's useless, it can't replace me. That's the mindset I've seen from a lot of people online that are in the development space.
And does that worry you?
It doesn't worry me, because I'm not thinking like that. I know that it's going to change, and I'm trying to change it myself. So we're actively working on AI tools to build AI products that help development. So our DevReady AI platform, when I started that 2 years ago, my goal was to put myself out of a job. So I'm trying to help design software using AI, and now we're going to look at coding like these other platforms. So I'm trying to push that envelope as well in our own way, because I know it's coming, and that's how I think we can do it. It doesn't worry me that they're thinking like that, because there's a lot of people that don't like change. So you can't get them to see the benefit if they're not going to play with it. But as soon as you play with it, if you're open-minded enough, you'll make those connections and see that it's coming, and you have to understand how or why and what it's going to do to you.
Tell us a bit more about the DevReady AI platform. Yeah,
so that was, I think I started actually typing on the keyboard to write the code in February 2023. So once ChatGPT came out, I think it was November 2022, I didn't get on board with it until at the start of 2023, a couple months later. And then one night it just clicked that I can actually do all of the work that I'm doing by hand, which is as an architect and product owner, like writing and planning, designing requirements, modules, features, user stories. I could get the model to work with us to ideate. So I just started prototyping and exploring. And over the course of that year in 2023, I probably rewrote code 2-3 times because the frameworks were changing so fast and things was getting out of date that I had to just try and experiment my way through building a process that will deliver work for us. Since then, we've put it out in the market as a rough experiment, just to test, people pay for this? We've got about 10 to 15 users paying for it monthly at the moment. We've had 450 people go through the free version.
Okay.
And then internally, every product we use, it's a great return, but we're shifting it more towards developers rather than startups at the moment. So we're building tools internally that are going to improve our processes, and that goes into that product.
Okay.
But I'm in the product every day planning our delivery of software. So our DevReady Process now uses that as supporting system to help us go through everything faster. So we go through a survey initially, answer some questions about what you want the product to do. That came about because you may know as a consultant, when you talk to clients, sometimes they don't know how to explain their idea.
Yes.
So what we do is we've got an AI to help you answer the questions after you give it an initial statement. And then now you can refine that idea, and you get rid of sort of like that blank page syndrome where people don't know how to start. That then turns into a brief. We then expand that brief into features or modules. Those modules turn into user stories. The user stories turn into acceptance criteria. And then that's like a scope of a product. And then we're looking at storyboarding and agent workflows on top of that to help you design and manage it more broadly.
So if somebody's subscribing to that platform, are they able to execute it end-to-end by themselves, or would they need
For the
support?
design, yes, not the development. We're bringing in an MCP server, so that's a Model Context Protocol, if you're familiar with it. So we can provide context to any AI programming tool with what you've designed. So then it'll know how you want to build the product, it'll know what your requirements are, it'll know what your acceptance criteria are. And then we're looking at doing a more broader end-to-end from design to delivery over the coming months with some agents.
That sounds very exciting.
It is. Now that the agents have the capability, we don't have to worry about how we build agents that write code. It's how do we use the agents to write better code.
And do you have specific agents for specific code language, or?
I'm working through things like that at the moment. There's a couple cool ones from OpenAI, Claude, or Google. They do a couple different things. So just experimenting to see what works better, what's the right way to do it. But it's really setting up agents then for different tasks potentially. So like when you're prompting, one giant prompt doesn't do a good job.
Yes.
When you have multiple agents, you're going to get a better result out of them because they're instructions are more specific. So we're working through the whole process now. It's very, very early. Very
exciting as well.
It is. It's what keeps me up at night.
Do you plan to go to market soon with it?
I'm not sure when. We're very early stages. I've been designing it over the past 2-3 months. And understanding and testing and using everything. So something we will go to market with at some point, but maybe I can come back on when we're ready for that and do another talk.
I would love to know more about that once you're ready.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, thank you so much. I think we've had a great conversation, and anything else that you would like to tell our viewers?
On the AI space, if you're not sure where to start or you don't know what to do, just start playing with some of the tools, but don't ignore them. It's coming it's going to affect everyone's job.
True.
And it's not, they were saying, I think it was last year, people who don't use AI are the ones that are going to lose their job.
Yes.
AI is going to be everywhere. It's going to be in every job. So it's not the ones that don't use it. It's going to be how well you use it and how much you try and leverage it is going to be important. And if you have an idea for a software product, check out DevReady AI to plan it, and then go and use one of those tools to help you build it until we're ready.
Great ideas. Thank you so much, Anthony. It's been lovely having you on the podcast. And I think you've raised some really relevant points which people need to keep in mind while venturing into a development process. And I think having that guidance from the right professional definitely adds a lot of value and just keeps you away from risk and makes your product much safer and a lot more robust. So I'm confident that after having viewed this podcast, people will take a pause before just going and wildly building something, and look out for the right people to talk to. And if somebody wants to reach out for you, we'll definitely tag you on our post so that people can get in touch with you directly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on and be on your podcast, not have you on. I'm just going into my standard podcast speech. But yeah, it was good to be on this side of the sea for a change.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you so much actually for having me on your podcast.
Not a problem.
And I'm glad that I could return the favor. And it's been a great conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
From data management and product innovation to regulatory compliance, whether it's optimizing costs or enhancing efficiencies, Infinity is your partner for solving tricky problems with a human-centric and tech-powered approach. Connect with us at contact@ at .infinity.co.